For this one, I have this garden stake from the Dollar Tree. I got it for $1.25 last year, I believe. And I'm going to cut the stake part off with these bolt cutters that I got from Walmart. I'm going to give that a base coat of ivory chalk paint, and then a couple of coats of toasted marshmallow acrylic paint. This will be a free printable in the description box. I just got some of these public domain vintage style Christmas images off the internet. And I made the background of this Santa a little bit wider so that this would fit on this tree shape here. I printed that on some printable rice paper, and I do have that in my Amazon store. I Mod Podged that onto this metal tree form here, and I'm just going to cut away the excess and then sand off what's left. The rest of those images on that printable, I won't be using those in this video, but whenever I make a printable, like if I'm going to be using a sheet of that rice paper, it's not super expensive, but it's expensive enough that I don't want to just have a bunch of empty space. I want to use up the whole sheet, and so I'll have those images for future crafts that I might want to do. I did have to get a fingernail file out to get in those little tiny grooves. I have this metal lid off of a candle here. This is from Bath & Body Works, but there are lots of candles that have this style lid, and I'm going to use this as a base for the tree. And I just took my Crocodile Big Bite, that's in my Amazon store as well, and I just punched a few holes in a line so that this tree would go down in the base. I stabilized it with some hot glue, and then on the bottom underneath, I put a lot of hot glue to hold this still. I cleaned that up with some rubbing alcohol before giving it a base coat of truffle chalk paint, and then going over that with gold leaf rub and buff. I also used that rub and buff to go over all the edges of the tree to just outline it and give it some more detail. Now you could stop here or you could decorate it up some more. I just wanted to give you a couple of little ideas. I have these little star beads from the Dollar Tree. You could use any sort of little jewels that you might have. You could just stick them on the tree that he's holding, or you could place them all on the entire tree, just scattered randomly. You could also add some florals to the base, or if you have a candle ring wreath, you could also, slip that on there. That would look nice as well. But you know me, I like things pretty basic, and so I am going to add a little extra detail around the base here with these half bead stickers from the Dollar Tree. I'll just stick those on and then give them the same paint job I did the base. This is just a quick reminder that if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. That way you don't miss any future videos. Okay, if y'all remember a couple of videos ago, I made a wreath out of a fake fern bush from Walmart. And I only used, the leaves were so big that I had to cut them down. And so I had a bunch of scraps left over from that fern bush. And I only spent, $5 and some odd cents on this thing. And I made that really big wreath out of it. But I thought, I'm going to stretch my dollar even further and see what I can do with these trimmings here. I cut them off of the center sort of stem in the middle, and I gave them a few coats of this English Ivy Green by Apple Barrel. Now I will say that if you bought some fern leaves for this, it would be best to use the tips of the fern leaf where it's pointed. Because I used the bottom of each fern leaf, the tops of my trees that I'm making here aren't pointed, but if I had used the pointed end, then the trees would have a more pointed shape, a better tree shape, if that makes sense. And so I'm going to address that later, but just keep that in mind. If you recreate this, you want to, unless like me, you only had the bottoms of the leaves, but if you get leaves for this project, use the pointy end to create your trees so your trees have a more tree-like shape. I stained some skewer sticks and then I hot glued these leaves, these leaf pieces onto each skewer stick. It made 3 different trees. I just tried to, the trimmings that I had, I just matched them up into 3 different sizes. And then of course you can cut them down to make any size tree that you want. I had this box from the Dollar Tree. I am going to give it some, a coat of stain with this Varathane stain that I have in my Amazon store. It's gel stain, so even though this isn't real wood, it's still going to coat this and darken it up for me just fine. I made this quick little tree farm sign, and I didn't make this into a printable, but I showed you there the font that I used. You can use any sort of Christmassy looking font. I like to go to dafont.com, DAFONT, and I am going to cut this down, but first I'm going to age it up a little bit with some antique wax. I went around the edges with some brown ink to really outline the little sign, and I put some floral foam inside the little box. Now to make the trees a little more wintry, I'm just going to use some Mod Podge and some Epsom salt. At this point, I'm realizing that these trees are not pointy enough at the top because of that I used the back end of those fern leaves. It did not have a point and they weren't looking tree-like enough, but I kept going and I kept thinking, just trust the process. I'm sure they'll look fine. But that didn't, they did not look fine. But I kept going with the project, and around the bottoms, the base of the trees, you could do anything you wanted, decorate it up anyway. I just stuck some moss in the bottom there. But my husband came in and I was already thinking they don't look quite right. And then he came in and said, these don't look quite right. So I, went Edward Scissorhands on them and just started trimming the tree at the top to make it more pointed. I was a little bit worried, but this is how I cut my hair. I just sort of hack at it till it looks like how I want it. And so if there were any ugly cuts that I made, I just added Mod Podge and more Epsom salt to cover that up, and it definitely fixed my problem. I want to make some more of these. They were so cost effective, and I just like the looks of these trees as opposed to the bottle brush trees. I've already used bottle brush trees in so many projects. I'm ready to move on to a different type of tree. In my last video, I showed you guys on a computer where to find the playlists, and I'm sure most of you already know this, but I thought most people are watching on a TV, so I thought I would show you really quick. When you're on a video, you just hit the up button, and then you can go to either the description, you can click subscribe, or if you click on my profile picture, it'll give you the option to go to my channel. This is on the Roku TV, as well as the Fire TV, and I'm sure this is the style of app on other types of TVs as well. But you can go there and then go to my channel, and then you can see videos, but if you scroll down, you'll see the playlists, and so I have my videos organized there. You can, click play all to watch all of the videos in that playlist. You can even save it to your library if you have an account on YouTube. And then if it's a playlist you really like to revisit, it'll put that in your library, and then you can get to it quickly, to watch that playlist. And then a sort of a new feature is Play Mix, and that will just play a random variety of videos and it will play one after another, but they will be random if you click that play mix. But I thought that was a neat feature as well. I have the bottoms of these badminton birdies, and I used them in the last video. It was a challenge item on the Just Our Imagination playlist challenge, and I said that I was going to try to use the bottoms of them in another video. And so I'm just using one this time, and I might save the rest of these to see if I can do something with the rest of them. But I cut off the end where it was closed to open that up, and then I gave it a couple of coats of this champagne bronze spray paint by Rust-Oleum. I have some Christmassy scrapbook paper, and then I'm just going to sort of wrestle it, cut it shorter into a cone shape here. Use a staple to just temporarily hold it in place. And then I'm going to trim it up. I'm going to put some hot glue down in there and then glue this outer piece to my paper cone. I took some of this cord trim here and I'm going to go along the top. Really just use your imagination with these and decorate them up however you want. Use whatever kind of paper you like. A thicker paper, this paper is more like cardstock. I'm pretty sure it is a cardstock Christmas paper pack that I got from Hobby Lobby. So the thicker the better, because you want it to hold up whenever you add a handle to it so that the paper doesn't bend. So you want it to be a cardstock, something thicker than regular paper. You can use a regular hole punch, or I used my Crocodile Big Bite and punched a hole on each side for the handle. And then you can fill it with whatever you like, whatever Christmas odds and ends, trimmings that you have. There are so many directions you could go with these. I'm sure you've seen them before. They're just, Victorian style cone ornaments. I just added some little trimmings that I had. You could put some floral foam down in here. You could glue these down in to make them more permanent. Just, however you want to do it. This is a quick one. I have these red stripe paper straws that I got from Walmart, but you can find them online on Amazon and other stores as well. And I'm just going to age them up, but you don't have to do this part, with some antique wax. I cut them in half. I'm going to use 5 pieces. I'm going to take some of this baker's twine from the Dollar Tree. And using a little skewer stick as sort of a needle, I tied the baker's twine to it. And then I'm going to send this twine through the straw pieces and then tie that fairly tight. Then you're going to twist this little thing that you've made here and send it back through itself. Send one of the points back through itself. So you just do a little twist. It's easier to show you than to explain it with words. But you'll see, I didn't know how to do it. This was my first time doing this. And you can see here that I bent that straw to send that corner through it. And that bent the straw. Once it's bent, it's bent. And so I'm showing you here on the next one. I didn't want to bend that straw. I wanted it to keep its shape really nicely. And so I went up to the corner to send that point through. That way I didn't have to bend it. These are really sturdy, even though they're called paper straws. They're pretty thick. They're pretty darn sturdy. And so this makes a pretty sturdy star that you can do different things with. And as you're moving, you can move the pieces. Like if one point is bigger than another, you can, it's sort of the straw pieces slide on the baker's twine. And so you can sort of shape it and move it around until you get the shape that you like. You could do so many things with these. You could strand them onto some twine and make a garland. You could make a bunch of them, very affordable. You could also add them onto, glue them onto a skewer stick to make some picks for some floral arrangements. And of course, you could use them as ornaments as well. But I thought these were really cute, really fast, something you could do with kids for sure. But that's it for this one, and that's it for the Christmas in July videos. I'll be starting some fall crafts coming up, and of course I will, keep scattering in some regular decor videos. And then of course we have Halloween coming up as well. I've never been a huge fan of Halloween, except for just the fact that it's fun for kids. Whenever my kids were little, that was always fun. But I've never decorated for Halloween much. But then when I got this channel and I started crafting for Halloween, I really, really enjoy crafting for Halloween. And so I don't buy any decor for Halloween. I only decorate with what I have crafted. But it's really fun to craft for Halloween. And so I'm looking forward to that in the fall. And then, of course, after that, we'll look forward to Christmas, but that's a little ways down the road. But so stay tuned for some fall and some Halloween coming up. And I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.